Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me on this episode of the Adopt 365 podcast. Today is a very special episode. I'm not joined by my usual co-hosts, Megan and Anthony. I'm joined by a very good friend of mine, Murtuza from Poly. Fantastic. Thank you for joining me today, Murtuza.
Thanks, Barry, for having me.
So this episode of the Adopt 365 podcast, we're going to be concentrating on people. I've seen a couple of things recently that have happened where we're definitely seeing the focus changing just from the technology and looking at personal experiences and things like that. And the two subjects that I wanted to talk about today are the Poly Studio P series, which Murtuza will talk to us all about where that process has happened inside of Poly and what those products are about, but also the Microsoft Viva announcements that we've seen, and they've also been talking a lot about that at Microsoft Ignite. I brought Murtuza on for two reasons. One, because he's from Poly, so can fill us in on everything that's happening from that side, but also Murtuza is a great person that likes to talk about how technology impacts people, and how we can kind of be looking at the way that we're utilizing technology to help drive people's, motivation or the way that they work and the experiences they've got. So thank you for taking the time to join me today.
Yep. Absolute pleasure to be on your podcast, Barry. I mean, I always watch them on LinkedIn and YouTube, and I always learn from these podcasts. And I'm hoping that some of our viewers today will learn something from our conversation today, Barry, mostly from you.
Definitely. No, not at all. So let's start with Poly, and let's start with the Studio P series. This is something that I'm very excited about. Anyone that knows me, I'm surrounded by technology. I think I've got 3 or 4 cameras pointing me at the moment. So Murtuza, what can you tell us about the Studio P series?
Perfect. But before we do that, I know you spoke about focus, and the camera that I'm using now is doing some autofocus. So I had to do that just to make sure that it focuses right on me. Now it does. The Studio P series. So this is a new line of products that we've brought in, and these are specifically designed as personal use products, right? So you know that work is not going to be the same, and we're going to have a lot more sort of people working from home, and a lot of people working a few days from home and few days from the offices. So when it comes to that, how do you enhance the experience of these employees? How do you make sure that they get all the tools that they need to work from home, to be more productive, to be seen clearly, to be heard clearly? Companies have been investing a lot in meeting rooms, in conference rooms, spending a lot of money, doing a lot of these things. But the rules of the games have changed now. A lot more people are going to join these meetings sitting in their drawing rooms, or sitting in their study, or sitting in their on their dining tables. How do you make them included in the meeting? How do you have them sort of get the same experience as if they were in office? And I think this P series solves that problem for our customers.
Definitely. I think it's a real challenge. We were on this journey, weren't we, of introducing flexible working just over a year ago. Lots of companies were starting to talk about it. I know us at Computerwood and you at Poly were all part of that journey. And we thought we were kind of going there. It was going to be 5 years or so, and then we were going to start to see changes happening. Unfortunately, the pandemic happened, and overnight, the changes that we were kind of already on the cusp of changed, and people had to implement solutions that were kind of last minute, not the ideal solutions, not well thought out solutions to make things work. We saw the global supply of webcams and headsets just disappear from the shelves. But we're now in that kind of stage where the world is changing. The world is going to hopefully go back to some kind of normality moving forward. And we can now reconsider actually what do we need to do to be professional, to kind of look right, to have that best experience in front of our customers when we're in these worlds. And I think for me, that's where the Studio P series really kind of stood out. It was allowing organizations and individuals to kind of reflect and choose the right products to give that right experience, personal brand when they're on calls, whatever they will be.
Sure, 100%, Barry. And here's the thing: P series is like an evolution in sort of the personal audio video conferencing space. I'll tell you my own experience. Prior to working with Polycom, and the technology already existed for video conferencing, but I never used video. I Most of my calls, I would say 99% of my calls, except maybe a job interview, would be on audio call. Right? It would be and I would be in my car. There'd be a lot of noise, and I'd be struggling to hear. Maybe just switch on the speakerphone on your iPhone or an Android device, and that's all I could think of. And not that the technology did not exist. There were Bluetooth headphones. There were a lot of things with noise cancellation, but simply we were not used to using those devices as employees. What has happened after the pandemic is, and sorry, but when I joined Polycom and I started experiencing these devices, I said, wow, I did not know that working with colleagues remotely could be so much better. I was speaking with people in different parts of the world, in US, and at that time when I was in the Middle East, to people in the UK, and I just did not feel the gap. And sometimes meeting somebody face to face and knowing how tall they look was a realization to me. So, and I knew at that time that this is going to be sort of the workplace of the future. This is how almost every company is going to work, including my previous employers. But I think the pandemic just pushed that bar and made sure that everyone transitions. And what P Series has now done is sort of made it more accessible, more. If you see these products, they are more organic in design. They are more friendly to look at. They are not very industrial. You can see the whole design language is all brand new and pleasing to the eye. Um, so I think that's what it does. And coming back to your point of looking more presentable at in a meeting, what would you do if you were going to a face-to-face meeting, right? So you'd wear a nice suit, you'd make sure you look really good, and you'd make sure you are sounding proper. If you are in a presentation, that everything's okay. Um, Not taking care of that element in a video meeting is a big failure. So if and to be honest, it's so much more easier if you're just sitting in your own environment to look good than to go to a different environment and look good in somebody else's conference room, right? So you've traveled, you've been on a commute, you could crumple your shirt or spill coffee. You don't have all of those issues here, sitting right here in the home. And imagine all you have to do is make this part presentable, and your background may be a little. That's what I've been working on and experimenting in the last few days.
Definitely, I think first impressions count, don't they? And whilst we've kind of been finding our way through that, and we've both reflected about the changes that have happened to our personal spaces that are around us since the earlier videos we did at the beginning of lockdown, people are now kind of starting to consider, look, if this is going to be a more permanent change, what do I need to do? Am I going to get a shed, which is my working environment at the bottom of the garden that I've seen some people doing? Am I going to turn that spare room into my home working space, or am I just going to kind of up the tech that I need in the space that I've already got, just so I can be heard correctly, and I'm giving that best experience offers I am talking to my customers or colleagues or whoever that will be.
Absolutely, Barry. And the other thing is that I wanted to really demo the lighting that you have, because you showed me before this podcast how you sort of change your lighting and how it's making a big difference. Maybe you could show that to the audience, and that would be a realization of how
Yeah,
much
definitely. It's some of those things, like as to where your desk is situated and where you're working. And I've got a very small but very bright light in front of me that is lighting me up. I don't know if it's ideal at the moment. I've not tuned it specifically for this video, but as you turn it off, as I just reach up to there, you can now see that I'm a lot more drained, kind of thing, and it does make such a difference to that experience. And one of the things that really stood out to me with the P series was the fact that all of the products have been designed to help compensate for both the dull light situation, but also from a color perspective as well, I believe.
Exactly. And not only that, the P series, it comes with vanity lighting. and you can sort of change the color of that light as well to tune to your environment. So these are some of the small features, but that make a really big difference. So that's
Definitely.
the
So that's the
21.
P21.
Yep.
And this is a really quite nice USB connected 21-inch display, microphone built into it, camera built into it, just kind of plug and go, use it as a second screen or whatever. And I think this is really good. And one of those small features that I really liked across the whole range was the use of USB ports. So even if you're on the P5, which is that small camera that you're introducing, there's another USB port in the back of the unit there that you can use to put your Poly headset dongle into as well.
Exactly. You can use the P series to charge your mobile phone, the P21. So these are some of the cool features that, and also these are some of the difficulties that you have while working, right? So you've got enough USB devices on your desk and less ports to go with. So, and
Definitely.
every manufacturer is reducing the number of ports every time they come with a new device.
Definitely. So we've got there's 3 new products in the range. We've got the P5, which is the webcam. I believe it's a HD webcam, personal webcam, as we say, with the USB port behind it. We have the Poly Studio P15, which is an individual video bar with built-in. Is it got built-in speakers, microphone array in that? I think.
Yep.
And then the P21 there is the largest in there, which has got the full screen in there. So a complete solution for you to kind of figure out which components you need. And one of the things that I really liked about the launch when they were spoken about was, I think it's the P5, you're bundling those together. So IT departments can buy a P5 bundle, which is the headset and the camera, or the camera and a speakerphone, or a wired headset and the camera. And for me, that was a really nice way of packaging it up.
Exactly. So it's easier for consumers to understand the bundle, for them to be able to buy. Also, remember, a lot of the consumers here are going to be the prosumer type, who will probably need some sort of guidance or assistance on what's right for them, and what are the elements that you need to make it complete. And based on that, you have the 3 versions: the good, the better, the best, and stuff like that. So to make sure. So whilst you mentioned some of the features, one thing I would like to mention more on the P series is the personal field of view that we've come up with. So you can tune it to what you really want to show on video. So right now I'm using an Eagle Eye Mini camera, but still, if I can tune that even better, then I can sort of make sure that you don't see the door and stuff like that, and just have the field of view that's appropriate for a desk, rather than, because it's very different from a field of view that you'll have on a studio USB, which is more like wider, tuned to a small huddle or a conference room.
Definitely, and I've got a Studio X here that I use. It's absolutely fantastic. However, as you say, from a personal device, it's not ideal. You get a lovely view of the back of my monitor, and if the wife sat next to me or whatever that view kind of looks like from that perspective. So that's really good. I think we're starting to see the first elements of those come to the market at the moment. I think I've seen the P15 start to be available in small quantities out there, but I believe it's all kind of due to be coming out in the next couple of months.
Yes, it is. And personally, I can't wait to get hold of some of these devices for my own personal meetings and some of the podcasts that we are planning to do together in the future, Barry.
Definitely. No, I think that'd be really good. So good segue then to talk about our next topic, which is Microsoft Viva, and all about employee experience. This seems to be one of the latest trends. Certainly from a Microsoft perspective, we've seen various technologies come out like My Analytics before. We saw that the Headspace was being integrated into Teams at the last Microsoft Ignite. But Microsoft have now kind of launched this whole new category of tools that they are calling employee experience, with 4 main components that are part of it. So I'll dig into them in a little bit. So we've got Viva Topics, we've got Viva Connections, we've got Viva Learning, and we also have Viva Insights. But immediately when I heard about this, I thought about you, Murtuza, not because, and I'm sure you are interested in the technology, but not because you are the go-to expert for Microsoft Viva, but it's because actually technology is starting to really overlap with people's lives, with people's experiences. And when I start to think about that, I immediately think about you. Knowing the keynotes that you've delivered and things like that before, you very much put people first. You put those experiences first and then help to relate that to technology when I've seen you present on behalf of Poly. So what does employee experience mean to you?
It means everything, and that's what companies like Google, Apple have been spending millions of dollars on. Right? They've been wanting to make sure that the employees have the best office when they go in. They have these sleeping pods. They have all of these great things in offices, including restaurants where they can go and eat. So it's possible when you have all of the employees turning up to office. Okay, it's quite, you can spend those millions of dollars and get that done. But what happens when your employee, or when a large part of your team is working from home, or working from an airport, working from everywhere else? And that is the employee experience that Poly is taking as top of mind. We want to ensure whether the employee is working from home, working from an airport, working from a cafe, working from the office, they all get the best experience that they can get in their in that space. And again, going back to the latest launch of P series, that's what it aims to do. It aims to provide you the best experience. When you have something on your desk, you also want it to look really good, right? You don't buy a phone just for its functionality. You buy it of how it looks on your hand, how it looks on your desk. So these sort of things vary, and it coincides really well with Microsoft's vision of employee experiences. I think we as Poly and Microsoft are thinking of the same philosophy. We're just doing it differently. They're using their Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Viva to provide that connectivity, that experience, whereas we are augmenting that with our hardware, mostly technology that sort of ties in very well with Microsoft Viva or Microsoft Teams.
Definitely. And I was really pleased to see, certainly from a Poly perspective, the Poly Lens desktop app that you've launched as part of the P series, but as this kind of coming together of all the management consoles. Obviously, I think most people will know Poly is the coming together of Polycom and Plantronics over the years. So you have had a number of different pieces of software to manage the various different pieces of devices on computers, but Poly Lens is now the single point that's coming to allowing you to manage that, and included inside there are a number of well-being features. So I've got it installed on my desktop here. When I'm working, when I'm focusing, I listen to the river trickling that the app does from that perspective. It pops up every now and then just reminding me, do you need a glass of water, kind of thing. And as I blogged about around this, it's very much a first iteration from Poly from that perspective, but I think this is all kind of coming together as part of that employee experience, caring about the people, caring around what the experiences are that the employees are experiencing when they work for your organization.
Absolutely. And a great point you brought up there about employee well-being through sound, right? So even I listen to a lot of sort of meditation music, or even I just turn on my Habitat soundscaping on either my Poly Sync, which I'm using now, and it just sort of gives me a how do I say, a calmer experience when I'm doing my work. So I think these small things make a big difference in employees' lives.
Definitely. So if I kind of dig into some of the tools that are available as part of Microsoft Viva, we've got Viva Topics, and Viva Topics is all around helping employees find the information that they need. So think of it as your own internal wiki that Viva Topics helps find and curate those topics that are important to your business. So likely if you're working at someone like Poly and you were using this, you would be able to find find about all the different products and all the different markets that you are serving. You may also be able to find about the different offices around the world, and it's going out there, it's helping you curate that information. It's also offering you the ability to create that as an organization. The next one we have is Viva Connections, and this is all around keeping employees informed, making sure that the culture for your business is stepping out more than just when you're in the office, but it's felt when you're out and about. So it's bringing in your SharePoint home site, but it's also offering a fully mobile experience to those people that maybe don't sit in front of a computer all day, every day. And importantly, all of these areas will be available directly in Teams, where so many of us are spending so much time. The next area is Viva Learning. It kind of does what it says on the tin. It brings together all the learning resources that are important to the employee's experience when they join your organization, where they need to be getting up to speed. Maybe someone moves into a management position and they need a leadership training course that they're able to access. And this is bringing in the best of the content from things like LinkedIn Learning, Microsoft Learning, but also third-party providers like Skillsoft as well. And then finally, the most important area for me, and probably an area where we might talk a little bit more around, is Viva Insights. So this is kind of the rebadge of My Analytics and a little bit of Workspace Analytics, all coming into Microsoft Teams. And this really aims to be a product that helps you keep informed as to how you're feeling, how's your work-life balance, how are you spending time with the people that matter. And as a leader, it gives you insights into how your team is feeling, how they're interacting, how it's going from that perspective. So a really exciting collection of tools there. I don't know, Murtuza, if there's any kind of standout points there from those tools that you want to dig into a little bit.
I specifically like the Viva Connections bit because we've had our conversations before. I think people feel a lot disconnected when they are working remotely than they would if they were working from an office. Say, for example, if I was in the office, I could pass by my colleague and ask them how their children are, or somebody can ask me, how's your cat? And these kind of small conversations have a big impact because you get to know more people, you feel less isolated. And I think that's the reason why one of the surveys that was done in the US brought out some interesting results. 74% of employees in the US reported that they were feeling a sense of isolation, or they were feeling the fatigue of working from home. So if that continues, that's not good, and that's a dead-end road. So employees or companies need to start focusing a lot more on how do you make people less isolated, more connected, and I think Viva Connection helps that. Very similar to how Poly helps their customers make sure that all of their employees are connected. And I really do feel, and I only talk because I do believe, then the last 1 year, I've made so many more connections because I've got this sort of video conferencing background, but also I work with people at Microsoft who understand video, who understand the ways of work of video, and who've got good equipment themselves as well, including Microsoft Teams. And had it not been for Microsoft Teams, I think this would have been a much more miserable experience than it already has been in some way. But yesterday I was speaking to my colleague and I said, Christoph, that's his name. I said, Christoph, just imagine the progress that we've made in terms of developing relationship with our partners, alliance partners in the last 1 year. We probably have made either equal or even more progress than we would have made with all the events, the face-to-face meetings that we would have had and all of that. So if that can happen externally outside the organization, imagine how much it can affect inside the organization itself. I think we've met twice in our lives, but we've met so much more on video. And look at the relationship that we've developed on video. We both sitting in two different parts in the UK. I don't think real life gives you enough opportunities to connect as much as the virtual world allows you to. And harnessing that strength, I think, is great. And Microsoft Viva does that really well.
Yeah,
and
definitely. I think that connection with personal people, but also the connection with the organization, is something that is we've got to completely rethink, because you can't take what you had in the physical world and just try and take it over to the virtual. You've got to kind of interact in different ways and promote it in different ways, and I think that what Viva Connection tries to do, highlighting those people that you could connect to, but also highlighting the organization and making sure that you feel connected to the organization you work with, because you're no longer walking through the front door and that's your connection. The connection almost needs to come in a different way. And I remember, I think I seem to remember, Murtuza, you come from the Poly side of the Polycom side of the Poly relationship, but I was speaking the other day to your senior vice president, Paul Clark, who I believe comes from the Plantronics background, and I've got a bit of a longer relationship with the Plantronics background. I've worked with the guys that when you had the office in Royal Wood and Bassett, and one of the things that they did, it was a good many years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I was in the office there, the most brilliant offices, beautiful offices that you guys do have, and I was in the coffee bar area, and there's a water cooler there, and above the water cooler were 2 screens, and I think there was one screen that was permanently connected to Madrid, and there was one screen that was permanently connected to America. And the idea was that as you were there getting your water from the water cooler, to be American, you got that water cooler moment. You could bump into someone from the Madrid office or from America, and whether that actually worked in practice, to me, it was just that lovely idea of being able to bump into someone in a digital form and not be close to them. And I think we need to think more like that. We need to try some things. They're not always going to work, but I think that's really interesting.
Exactly. Again, I want to bring in a feature in Viva Insight that allows you to do that. So in Viva Insights, although it's sort of confidential to a large extent, but it also allows managers to sort of realize that they've not had a meeting with their staff in probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and it would suggest by itself, do you want to have a one-on-one? So these kind of suggestions could ensure that the relationship between the employees is maintained, right? And it also shows you top collaborators who you've been collaborating with more frequently, and will give you suggestions on, do you want to arrange a meeting on Thursday, or do you want to arrange a meeting on Wednesday? These are some amazing things. I mean, because we're not tuned to working remotely, and we're still in the industrial age when it comes to the cubicles and offices, I think that mindset needs to change. And I think Viva Insights helps you do that, change your mindset, or at least push your behavior towards the new normal.
Definitely. No, I think that was really important. And I do really like those features in My Analytics. And I'll pop it on screen briefly. This is actually my live version of My Analytics that is running here. And I've got some team members. So Anthony, Megan and Ben that you can see here are people that report to me directly that I've added to there. And I can go there and make sure that when was the last one-to-one that was booked with them, when's the next one booked, and as you could see there, the last one and the next one was there. I've also chosen to add some of the team members in that report to the managers underneath me, just because it gives me a little bit of a reminder when I'm in there. Have I actually just caught up with the wider team that often? And one of the things that I'm really excited to see, twofold. So previously, Viva Insights has been available as My Analytics in some forms and Workspace Analytics, but we had to go to a specific portal to access that and see what was going on. Now that's coming into Microsoft Teams. And I spend most of my day in Microsoft Teams now, so it's more accessible for me. The insights are getting more intelligent, so you'll get kind of, when you go into your email and things like that, it will go, Barry, you told Murtuza you'd get back to him yesterday. Have you done that? And it's kind of using those things via the Graph API to kind of just give you those friendly little nudges to kind of go, oh, no, yeah, I did put in that email that I do that. I didn't create a task. I didn't go and track it. But it's just kind of coaching you and just helping you for what it is. We're also going to see things like virtual commute come into there. And I was really pleased to see this, as you probably were, Murtuza, the Headspace functionality. So I'm a regular user of both Headspace and Calm applications. I tend to go from one to the other based upon what it is that I'm really looking for. And Microsoft are bringing in the fact that at the end of the day, you can start a virtual commute. You can go through your checklist, the things you wanted to do, and make sure that you're square with them. You know what you're doing or what you've completed. That gets it off your mind. So that frees your mind from the work at that point. You kind of got yourself square. And then you can do a 10-minute Headspace meditation all inside Microsoft Teams with no need for an additional Headspace subscription to access that. directly from there. Now, this isn't available yet. I believe it's due within the next month or so. But for me, these little things were really, really welcome for me to see as part of Microsoft Viva.
I feel the same way. I am a regular sort of meditator. Tend to start my day with a meditation in the morning, and even more after I read your blog post about your morning routine. So I've sort of put that in my routine. I take a 10-minute just a break from everything. I don't touch my mobile phone. I sort of get into that space where I disconnect from so many other things and thoughts, and get into myself. And meditation helps me do that. But to have that integrated in insights and the virtual commute, reminding you to switch off because you've been on your PC for more than 5-6 hours, or it does this analytics. I don't know how it does it. It's a great thing. It's a great nudge to tell you, stop now, take a break. Meditation, almost like when you drive your car for too long, it says now take a break and use services.
Definitely. And I think the other thing in there is that work-life balance. It will highlight to you where you have been interrupting your family time or your out of work time. And again, that's something that I'm just very mindful of, that I do like my work, and I do like to be connected, but sometimes it can take over, and I'm actually going, yeah, I do need that reminder to go, actually it's saying I've not disconnected from work for the last 4 weekends. And that's not who I want to be. I'm not happy with that. So let's see how I could change that behavior. And I think what we need to encourage with inside the teams we're working with is people to start talking openly. So what are your scores inside my analytics? This is all personal. It's all to you. No one else can see that. But actually, you volunteering that information, comparing with the team, committing to your team that actually I'd really like to get the days that I am disconnecting down to work, down to interruption maximum 2-3 days a month or something like that, because at the moment, gosh, every day I'm not disconnecting at the end of the day or in the weekend. So by publicly talking about your goals and where you are, I think will be really important.
Sure. And I remember prior to Viva Insights, you used to sort of disconnect, and you told me this anecdote where you sort of leave your phone so that it doesn't ping and remind you of your email, so that you get quality time with your family rather than be disturbed with like an email or a shipment going out that you need to track. Really interesting. The other thing that I want to bring focus on is Viva Learning, because I believe that learning and development is something that always takes a backseat when you are in your day-to-day work, when you are living quarter by quarter, making sure you are doing your performance metrics, or you're hitting your revenue numbers, or whatever your currency for performance may be. So when learning takes a backseat, what really happens is people don't grow, and people start to feel that they're not sort of getting what they really want from their job. An interesting study says that up to $75,000 as your income, you are more focused on getting more money. But after that, and a lot of employees fall under that category, making more money does not motivate employees. What does motivate them is career progression. What does motivate them is how much they're learning on their job, and what are they able to achieve. So these kind of things, which we call more like soft benefits, take over. And if companies are able to offer, and they do, so they have all of these different platforms, LinkedIn Learning, Saba, but how much are they being utilized? And I don't know so much about the Viva Learning module yet, but if it's able to have the same impact like Viva Insights could have, I think it will make a big difference in how people learn and grow within an organization.
Definitely. I think I completely agree. I think it's a really important aspect, and how you motivate those employees, how you kind of do allow them to see how they can progress in their careers, whether that is moving for a role change, or whether it is just absorbing more information and being able to use that information in different ways. At Viva Learning, the main advantage is the fact that it's going to be directly inside teams, again, where you're spending so much of your time, bringing together multiple resources, not just from Microsoft, but but also those third parties. But importantly, as a manager, you will be able to go in there and pick content to help someone and suggest content for them to be doing from that perspective. So again, I think it all comes together. I do think the whole way that we train and learn is an area that is, again, ripe for massive change. We're all very busy in our day-to-day lives, and having the ability to go and find the content that matters to you, to go and sit a 3.5-hour course on something, people don't generally have that. So I'm really kind of hoping that the rise of things like micro learning and maybe intelligence that helps you. I don't want to go back to Mr. Clippy, but actually, if Mr. Clippy was there and actually giving you some real useful micro learning insights, and we've all got a bit of a secret love for him, but if there was a way that wasn't so interrupting, so cheesy maybe, but you were able to absorb the information as you needed it, when you needed that, in a way that I think that is where we're going to start seeing that learning side of things going.
Absolutely. The other great feature about Viva is because it's all based on the AI platform. The information finds you rather than you wanting to find information. So based on the pattern that you've generated, it knows what Barry might be interested in and sends that information right to you. And I think that is the power of this platform.
Definitely. Well, what a wonderful conversation, and I'm really pleased to see that organizations of all shapes and sizes, but specifically from today, Microsoft and Poly are putting people first, that employee experience, that personal experience. Thank you ever so much for joining me today, Murtuza.
Thanks, Barry, and it's a great topic, and I'm looking forward to getting my hands on Microsoft Viva. In the same way that I'm looking forward to get my hands on the latest P series devices from Poly.
Definitely. And me. Fantastic. Thank you ever so much. Thank you ever so much, everybody, for watching today's Adopt 365 podcast. I hope you've been able to take some information that is useful to you. And you can go and check defindtomorrow.co.uk to go and learn some more about both the P series and also Microsoft Viva. We're covering lots of information there. And watch out for the next Adopt 365 podcast, which will be back to the usual format, looking at all the announcements that come from Microsoft Insights. Thank you ever so much for joining us today.